Hello guys, welcome again to the channel. Today I want to share with you my opinion about this recent information I found and I thought it was interesting. This comes from the website of defensenews.com and they are saying this Russian microchip maker eyes Taiwan exit in response to sanctions. So this is what happened. Russian relations with Taiwan worsened soon after the former launched its invasion on February 24. In March, the Kremlin included Taiwan on a list of unfriendly nations, and Deputy Trade Minister Vasily Shpak said Taiwan had stopped shipping microchips to Russia. My guess is that Taiwan did this receiving some kind of pressure from Western countries. That's my guess. I don't know what motivated this news. These actions from Taiwan, which is somehow contradictory because Taiwan is part of China. Anyway, they have at least a degree of independence, so they decided to not produce any more chips for Russian companies like this one in particular. And this particular information comes about this company that is called MCST. So this company MCST produces Elbrus microchips, and they say that they, as a result of these actions from Taiwan, they were going to move their production to the Micron plant based on Selenograd. So let's pay a little bit more attention to these details. So this is a profile of this company MCST, and they develop multi-core microprocessors with the original parallel Elbrus architecture and hardware implementation of information security. The company also develops processors based on the Spark architecture. The MCST company develops its products in close cooperation with the Brook Institute for Electronic Control Computers, and in 2014 the production of microprocessors of the Russian Micron factory also began using 19 nanometers process. So if you're not aware of too much about microprocessors, the smaller the microprocessor architecture is more efficient, and you can have a much more powerful microprocessor in a shorter or a smaller footprint. And this is what they were saying. So we will come back to this. This is what they were saying about this company, that they were planning to move their production to Micron factory. And Micron is jointly controlled by AFK, Sistema, and Rostec, two Russian industrial conglomerates, and produces microchips for both military and civilian use. So it's my guess that that's why they were targeting these particular companies, or in particularly Taiwan, because of the possible military use for microchips. And as a result of this, Russia will have to rely on local manufacturers. They will need to become self-reliant on this kind of technology. Defense and commercial companies in Russia, that means private entities, rely heavily on foreign-made microchips. The Russian military uses Taiwanese assembled microprocessors in its computer systems, as well as microchips for weapons and equipment made by Angstrom, another Selenograd-based company. Angstrom makes a wide range of products from discrete transistors to microprocessors according to its website, and produces 600 nanometer microchips for military use. So we will look a little bit more into that, why angstrom is particularly important for the Russian military. So Shpak has described the potential decision to leave Taiwan as not a tragedy, and that the departure will likely benefit Rostec, which has long lobbied to create a domestic microchip industrial base. In 2020, the company said it will be able to modernize the country's microchip industry with 800,000 million rubles. But other industry players anticipated such an undertaking will require more, that is probably 1 billion rubles. I'm trying to translate the numbers for users who are not from the US, because in the US they use a different standard for numbers. So that's what they were saying. Here they say something. Micron will be able to sustain the local defense sector alone, but that microchip quality will see a decline after the move from Taiwan. And it will see a decline because they are saying here that Micron will be able to produce 90 nanometer chips at best, whereas Taiwan has the capacity to create smaller, more efficient chips down to 5 nanometers. In March, several companies locally producing semiconductors appealed to the government to include their businesses in its list of so-called backbone enterprises, which will allow them to set up facilities in China with government support. And despite strong Sino-Russo military cooperation, Moscow is reluctant to share sensitive defense information with its ally. During the past few years, several Russians were jailed after being accused of spying for China. That was before. I assume things will change, mainly because Russia needs China's expertise, even though China is not as good chip manufacturer as Taiwan. Probably has more advanced technology than Russia currently has. Even if these investments that are suggested here take place, it will likely take years for this to pan out to become a reality. So it's something that Russia needs. And they were just saying that the best way to boost domestic microchip production is through tax relief for manufacturers. So that's what they were saying. This is a website for the Micron company, and the Micron company, if you remember the context in the article, is the company that produces the microchips. So for example, MCST, they have the architecture, let's say the microchip design, they own the design, and then they produce it in the manufacturer facilities. For example, in this case Micron, before it was Taiwan. And as far as I can see, they mentioned in the article that they have only 19 nanometers, and here in this website they say they have 65 nanometers. So like I was mentioning, the smaller the footprint, the better. So 65 is already 50% more density than you can have. So this is, I think, a great improvement. And like they mentioned, they produce chips for civilian uses and for military uses. And this is the profile of the website. Is roughly translated. So this is the website for the company, MCST. Now they have some information here. So that's all. If you want to dig more into it, I will put some links in the description section of the video. And this is the Angstrom company. And what is important about the Angstrom company is that they produce chips that are, if you see in this section here, maybe it's too small to see it. Anyway, on this section, for example, they say that they have chips resistant to cosmic radiation. So what I'm guessing is that Angstrom, which is focused more on chip production for military uses, has other kinds of chips that probably the ones that Micron produces, which are dual use, either for private use or for military use, while probably Angstrom is more focused on the military use, and that's why they have not such a high degree of miniaturization. If you pay attention to the article, they mentioned that the Angstrom had a technology of 600 nanometers. So that is huge if you compare it to the 65 nanometers that we saw with the Micron. So that's like 10 times bigger. So you can have less complex chips, but probably for military use is more important other things like resistance to radiation, resistance to electronic jamming. So they are having some kind of resistance to all these kind of let's say hostile situations, hostile environment that a normal private chip will not have to endure. So that's why they have these kind of things. I think some of these chips are also resistance to EMP, so that is critical. And I saw some information that Angstrom was having some financial difficulties, but right before the Russian military operation, the government decided to seize the company. So they basically took over the company, probably because they consider the company critical for the military and probably for other uses as well. So they will try to continue operating the company. That is my guess. So this is one more example of how strategy and technology go hand in hand. Probably right now Russia has enough chips to continue operating their military, but going forward they will need to become self-reliant, and this is exactly what happened with Iran. Iran had a big weapons embargo, technology embargo, so that forced Iran to become self-reliant in almost every aspect of its economy, and its in every aspect of their economy they are almost self-reliant. They cannot depend on foreign imports, and this allow them to produce their own weapon systems, their own computers, their own microchips and stuff. So that is a small country compared to Russia, and the technology that Iran has access to is much less advanced than Russia. They have more capable scientists and more money to invest. So I think going forward in the future, since Russia is never going back to the West, is going to be the inflection point. From here on, things will be much different, and probably they will never go back to the way it was. So going forward, we're going to see the microchip industry develop greatly in Russia. Probably Russia will invest heavily in this sector because it's vital for their economy, for their future as a nation. They will probably invest more heavily in this than in any other areas, probably not so openly, not so publicly, but that's just my call on what I think might happen. And let me know what you guys think about this topic in particular. And as always, I ask you to please like the video, share it in social media, and subscribe to the channel. I hope to see you again very soon. Thank you for watching.